So let's try something first with the compass. Don't look at it, but pull it out in your hand and ask your body to show you magnetic north. So you can either have a tool point toward magnetic north, or you can turn your whole body and sense what magnetic north is. At least I can. My little compass is pointing to magnetic north that way. And when I turn, I get a kind of tug that way. And when I keep turning, I get a second tug, but it's to the south. So after a while, I realized if I just got quiet and paid attention, I could feel being pulled magnetic north without, looking at this. And so it just gives you a background that you can sense energies, and I think that's part of what we sense here is electromagnetic field. So this is the first time I've done the compass thing, but I think you all have the ability to detect a magnetic field weaker than this, and just, try, practice. All this is practice. So what I want to do next is see if you can sense the energy of the flowing water. We're going to actually have you walk across this bridge. If you can do it carefully without falling off, that'd be better. And ask your rods to move when you are over the edge of, I'm going to ask two things. To indicate when you're over the greatest center of flow in the water, the greatest flow, volume of flow, when you're directly above it, and then also ask when you first sense the water. Sensing the water make more sense on the hose I've got over here. But so without me telling you what's going to happen here, some of you are going to be innies, some of you are going to be outies, some are going to point that way, some are going to point that way. So let's see what you do. And I'll just sit over here, stand over here, and 2 or 3 come at a time and see a response. So you're the one that has to move this. So you've got to say, self, move the rods when I'm over the flowing water. With the L rods, if you drop the tips just a little bit, they won't swing as much. The more you hold them level, the more kind of sensitive they are, but then it's harder to walk. Got a couple outies here. I call that an outie, these are innies. So we'll just keep moving people across. If you don't get it at first, we're going to go to a water hose where it's more concentrated. But once again, I ask vague questions. I ask you to sense the water, which we'll show over here better, and then when you're over the greatest flow. There's no right, there's no wrong, it's just what works for you. And hopefully when you get past the water, you go back to what's known as a search position. Okay, you're getting both going there. So your dominant hand usually will move first. So just to recap what I saw, most of you folks had the rods opening. Okay? I saw one where they crossed. I saw one where it pointed the direction the water was flowing. To me, that's good because if I'm looking around a septic field, I want to go uphill the septic instead of down. And like I say, I've done this with 1,000 people. About 3 or 4 had pointed up to the source. So it's all what's in their mind. One woman walked across a water hose and she started gargling kind of in her throat. If I was traveling across North Africa and this woman said, dig here, I would dig here. So we're going to do this on a water hose, but if you don't get a response there, find a bigger water source like a creek like this. So we're going to walk to these greenhouses, and we've got a short water hose to play with. All right, so we have water. So approach the water hose and ask your rods to show you when you're directly over the water. So we're getting an outie there. And basically you want to come back to a neutral position after you're past the target. All right, you're getting 2 going the same direction, which I like. You're pointing upstream, which is interesting. That's fine. Crossing, that's a good technique.
That's pretty.
Yeah. With all my classes, this is where most people get a aha, something's happening. So, and another 2 people going upstream, interesting. Everybody basically getting a response that's consistent. Yeah. So, there are some loops here. See what kind of energy you may feel with this loop versus this loop. You may want to walk up the cord and see if you get a direction of rotation. And we're just doing this kind of quick just to let you realize that nature has all sorts of energy fields in the background, and they can be clockwise and counterclockwise, and you can detect that. Normally I see a dominant hand move first, but occasionally I see this non-dominant. And I guess it's just, it's responding because it can. Mm-hmm. So what I'm hoping is that you can detect a different direction of flow with these 2 loops. One is supposed to be a clockwise. See, that's clockwise, and that's counterclockwise. So I need a volunteer. I want to douse your aura. We all have, we're living beings. We have a biofield, an aura. And I'm going to show you what happens to most people when they stand over it. I'm going to douse your aura, a general health aura. I'm just going to use 1 rod. And I'm getting about here. So if you hold 1 hand out at me, it's extending 2 to 3 feet. Can people see? Okay, put your hand down, relax. Just notice how you feel. Now I want you to straddle the water hose. Notice how you feel. Any different? Okay. And I've done this with about 1,000 people. Okay, hold her arm up toward me. Her energy field is shrunk in. Okay, you can relax. You don't have to stand there. I find it uncomfortable. I feel a tightening in my chest. The electromagnetic field around your heart has 60 times the amplitude as around your brain. So we feel things in our heart. So definitely trust those kind of feelings. Did everybody get a response? Somebody else want to have their aura done real quick? Sure. I want to keep moving, and we can always come back, and I don't want to run this water too long. So once again, your aura extends to the end of the universe. A lot of people have one very close to the body that they can feel, but my rods will sling and slap people, so that's why I'm looking for this one that's farther out. All right, and somebody says, yes, that guy's moving it. Yes, I am, but it's based on what I feel. Okay, so notice in your body your tenseness, level of relaxedness, whatever. What? Stand over here. Do you feel, some people will feel weak in the knees, some people will just be dizzy. You don't...
Grounded.
You feel grounded?
Less grounded.
Less grounded, okay.
And more like it diffused from about here down.
Okay, so she's real aware of her body, and what I would recommend is that people just kind of sense off of it and then stand on it, and then we'll turn it off in just a couple minutes so we don't run too much. And what we're going to do is use these abilities up here to detect underground flowing water and estimate how deep, quality, all that sort of stuff. So you are truly feeling these things, and you can use it to, find hidden chocolate or car keys, or, the trick is to focus on one energy at a time, because if not, you'll be very confused. There are also some I can show you energy fields between every tree. And the energy fields between the same species of trees feel different than non-identical species. And then also background energy grids like a giant fishing net all over the world. And then there's all sorts of energy fields that the British don't even know what they are. They just call them dowsable energy lines. And you don't want to put your bed where they cross, because what I think here is that my body is tensing up because it's trying to maintain my magnetic field, and this thing's trying to strip it off. So that's kind of my mental thing. So I wouldn't want to put my bed over that. So has everybody had a chance at this? Did anybody get a response here that didn't get it on the bridge? Because usually I don't have a bridge. I usually just use a hose, and it works very well. So if you didn't, this is something you can practice, with an electrical line. I was going to say we could actually douse the energy field coming off of those power lines, but I want to take us over here and do the well, make sure we kind of cover that, and then we can open it up to what other questions.
So should I turn it off?
You can turn it off, yeah, and you can actually roll it up, I guess. All right, so we're going to walk up to these flags up here on the hill. I've marked some water lines that come off of the building, actually drainage pipes that you can douse where they are. And if we get through this okay, we'll go over there and practice. I also marked an underground pipe down here. I think it's coming off of their pump there. And it doesn't have to have water to flow through it for you to pick it up. So these are things that are a little less energy fields, not as easy as the water, but still very doable. So what I've done here is walked across here looking for what I think would be an excellent water well site. And my question is, just don't show me water. Show me water that is year-round, palatable, potable, at least or less than 400 feet deep, at least 3 to 5 gallons per minute, cost-effective location. So I'm looking for all those in my mind. And when I go across here, I drop, well, you can kind of see blue flags. There's one, am I missing one? Oh, here. These are the outer bands where I sense the water. On the second, the middle flag is where I sense the greatest flow. So I was going to have you kind of walk across here, and you could actually walk at the bottom of the slope, but it's just wetter down there. Maybe 2 or 3 people at a time come across here and see if you pick up underground flowing water that meets criteria for a legal, palatable, year-round, not too deep, enough water, cost-effective well site.
Did you say 3 to 5 gallons?
3 to 5 gallons per minute, yeah.
Less than 400 feet, right?
Less than 400 feet deep. Yeah. I haven't done the numbers here, but we'll do that next. Once again, I'm hoping that now that you know what water feels like, it tastes like energetically, you can pick up something here. So once again, just relax, hold your tools about level, and ask your body to move them when you're overflowing water that meets all those criteria. So the yellow flags are something different, but the blue flags are what I think are water. Basically, water is a universal solvent. When you've let electrolytes running through the ground creates an energy dynamo, and it's detectable on the surface. And once again, I feel it in my chest. I get tight when I go over these areas. You want to differentiate between the edges and the greatest flow. When you're walking over the greatest flow, you want to have a different reaction. So that's kind of the question down on the bridge. When you got to the water, you felt it, but then when you got to the greatest flow. All right, so she had a response. So yeah, let's move fairly quickly just to let everybody get it, and then we'll work it more for everybody else. So relax, kind of hold them like toy guns. I don't know, another image. Some of you gals maybe never did toy guns, but.
I did real guns.
No. Do you hold real guns like this? I don't know. But you want it balanced, comfortable, a little above waist. So we're getting a response.
We got a response to the first flag.
Yeah. And one other thing I want to point out is that some people get that first response before I do. They're more sensitive. Other people don't get it until closer to the middle.
Right here.
Okay.
Right here, no question.
All right, so he's feeling it. I'm told that if you don't have the straws or sleeve, that you can fill the pool. And other people would say that they prefer not to have the sleeve because strong pool, weak pool, but I've gotten around that. So your energy fields are interacting with the energy fields of flowing water, and you're now using, okay, we had a pointing up. I love it.
I got to pull back too.
Yeah. So important thing is people have different responses, but as long as it's consistent for you, out, in, down, up.
But it's been consistent till that one. I've always crossed at every point till that one, and then it went out this way instead.
Okay. It's showing a change is what how I
See
would.
there, then it's doing the cross thing again.
Yeah.
But that one, for some reason, went out.
Another thing to point out, some people like bigger handles, you know, like an inch or two. It's more comfortable. Some people like a pendulum for doing this. I didn't bring the Y rod out, but if I had brought that out, I would be slapping myself. So once again, this is what I sense, but by going back and forth, I get a center line. And that's where the driller is going to set up along that center line. So did people get a different response about here or within a short distance? This is where I feel the strongest. So, all right, so how much water do we have? Well, we're going to use that counting system. Well, how deep is the water? That's the people's pocketbook. That's usually what they want to know first. You know, $10 to $12 a vertical foot, you know. So my question is, what is the depth of the main water source obtainable on a borehole started on this fracture? So beneath my feet are my measuring reference point. Is it more than 100 feet? Yes, to the main water source. More than 200 feet? Yes. More than 300? Yes. 310, 320, 30, 340, 350. Okay, it's over 350. So my fallback is that can show me what number is, but preferably we want shallow. More than 350, 360, 370, 380, 390, 400, 410, 420, 410, 411, 412, 413, 414, 415. So I would write down 414 feet. I won't go back and do that 10 times because I'll get 10 different numbers and my subconscious is just going, you idiot, listen. So anyway, that's how we're getting quantities, okay? So gallons per minute recoverable at the surface. Another technique that people do is how deep is it to the first gallon of water. You know, they can count, you know, layers. I just give an average figure because, you know, it's easier. So gallons per minute recoverable at the surface, more than a gallon a minute, 2, 3, more than 4, more than 5, more than 6, more than 7, just more than 7, 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, so write down 7.2.
Historically on this property, the wells never come in less. I mean, wells, springs, everything come in big.
Big. Yeah, he was telling me more things about wet springs, but okay, quality. How do you ascertain that? Well, I don't know how I do it, but I get a number. And I go from the quality is poor, which is like 0, 1, to the best quality, which is 10. That's just my scale. You could go minus 10 to plus 10 if you wanted to. That's probably the better way to do it. But so the quality of this water, I'm basically trying to assay whether I think it has any problems with too much iron or sulfur or radon or anything that makes it less than a, you know. So quality more than 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4. So I get 9.3. I don't know the statistical difference between a point, but it's a little bit over 9 instead of close to 10. So I write this down. The last number I'll get, and you have a handout that has all this, and I'll go over that more. I just want to get us out here before it got dark, is estimating casing depth. The casing pipe is either the plastic or the steel pipe that they push into solid rock. It vertically keeps the soil from collapsing until you get into vertical. When you get into solid rock, they actually drill a solid borehole. Until you get there, you got dirt that can cave in. So health department requires that they go down 5 feet, the driller go 5 feet into solid rock. They go down with an 8-inch drill, then they pull that out, they push down a 6-inch pipe, they pump concrete around it or colloidal clay to keep surface water from flowing down to contaminate. It's called casing. And basically they come back with a 6-inch auger and they start drilling again down the middle. But anyway, they know the first day, the casing depth, because they set that up very quickly. I use that as my reference point. If I'm close to my casing depth, my next number I trust. If I'm 10% off, I estimate there might be an error rate on the other. But I've done this with close to 500 wells. Usually I'm within 10% of the depth, not the quantity. Quantity, I can be all over the place. So it changes during the year. So what we've done is use our body to sense the flowing water with very distinct questions. We then estimated depth, yield in gallons, quality, and casing depth. You can do anything else too. It's just clear question. Don't have a hidden agenda in mind. Like I would love this to be 150 feet or 10 feet so it could be hand dug or something. That's not going to happen. And if I force that, you won't get the truth from the universe. So.
How do you do it with a pendulum?
Same way.
Yes, no?
Yep. More than, less than. I've started practicing, well, I did it more with the candy, but 27 would come to my mind. And that's what I recommend you all learn to do. These tools are just training tools, and to learn to trust whatever number you get, because it's based on a clear question, and your subconscious, your superconsciousness, super self, wants to keep you alive. So it's trying to do everything to protect you and help you. So, all right. Any other questions on water? We can go sit down. It's getting dark, but we got into basically everything I want. There's an underground tank here that I douse the edges of. You can actually see part of it. Once again, if you're trying to find something, practice around a known location so you learn to sense it, what it tastes like, so to speak. And then, start marking it. So I'm surprised that's that narrow. Usually they're 4 by 8. Is that part of the septic system or is it water?
That must be the distribution box. Because of the way the water is here,
They've got a...
it's all the way over there.
Okay.
Yeah. But down there, under that thing there, is a 1,400-gallon tank that holds spring water that we use for irrigation.
Okay.
So that should be very, give you a big reading.
So I went behind the solar panel. I saw there was a pipe that looked like it went across the creek. Is that a water?
That takes the water from there and puts it over to the garden.
Basically, what I did was just practice sensing the pipe. And basically, you look where it goes, you walk back and forth, you get a response, you mark it. Then you go to where you don't know where it's at, you get a response, you mark it. And there are people that have saved a lot of money. I've had to walk a half-mile water line to find a leak, and I got it within 3 feet. That saved them having to dig up the whole thing. So
You should have been at Highland Lake all the time because Carrie Lindsay always hit the gas lines.
Uh-oh.
I hear these roaring gas things. Oops, he did it again.
So one other thing I marked was on the far end of the deck, there is a black pipe, drainage pipe, that goes down and goes to the creek. And I've actually marked where, once again, I walked to where I saw it and got the feel, and then I marked down to where I kind of guessed it might be. You could actually have your tool point to where does it go. So there's all sorts of variations that you can do with your tools. And I encourage people to do their own funny little ways instead of reading the book and saying you've got to do it this way. Your body knows better how to move these tools and talk to you than I do. I can make some questions and things.
I'm just curious. We got 2 kiwis from Ed Updike. One didn't make it, one did. I'm wondering what sex it is. I just got male. I'm wondering if you can see what you get.
Okay, well, first of all, show me a direction for female. Show me a direction for male. These come in boys and girls is what he's looking for. You need pollinators. So what is the sex of this vine? I get a male. Is that what you got?
Yeah, that's what I expected.
Did you notice any fruit ever?
No.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
So that's dowsing the sex of babies. Same thing with certain trees. I work with a conifer that are male and female. So if people want to practice here more, if not, we'll go up on the deck and answer questions, and I'll show you some other books and things. So the main thing at this point, I wanted to make sure everybody at least got a response somewhere, and you realize that your response may be different than the next, but it's just as accurate. So some of you may be able to dowse. There was a Richard Crutchfield that some of you may have known who passed recently. He would always pick it up 2 or 3 feet before I did. And I think he was just more sensitive. But by doing this back and forth and centering, you take out, beginners will often overrun it because you've not learned how to move this quick enough. You're still learning muscles and nerves to move this. So by going back and forth and splitting the difference, I get a center line. So did anybody else try to find the center line here? I mean, you got it here, but you can track it down the hill. Yeah, right behind her. So I walk a convenient place, and then I find a center line, and then if I have to move up and down it to get to a legal site or a place where a truck can do it, it's not that difficult. But I pretty much know what the drillers want, and I know the regs and everything that the health department wants, and we're too close to a distribution tank for this to be a legal site, but anyway, it was convenient to experiment with. So I think we can get up to the deck here. Does anybody want to practice any more on these? You want me to leave these here?
Sure, leave them. I think we might show the kids it tomorrow.
Yeah, kids are up to adolescence are great dowsers. They're very intuitive. They believe it's stuff. If somebody asks, can I dowse something? I says, I don't know, I'll try. If I say, no, I can't, I block myself. If I have to wear my special red hat, your subconscious will not dowse unless you're wearing it. So I'm trying to tell y'all a minimum of bad habits to incorporate and to develop your own system. Okay, so let's go there, and I'll go over the handouts, and we'll, let the kids play. I'll leave some extra rods and everything.
You said we've learned how to do this.
I'll be all right.
Okay, so I'm sensing it.
Oh.
I mean, something's happening, but I don't feel like I've learned it. Is that because it's not a conscious thing?
You got a response down there, didn't you?
Right.
So
But
at some level,
like I learned it.
part of you learned it, part of it expressed, yeah.
Subconscious. Right?
Yeah, the best description of how dowsing works, the Hawaiian shamanism of Huna. It talks about we have a middle self, lower self, and higher self. Well, the middle self is basically the beta mind, the conscious mind. The lower self is where you're tapping into all its connections. And I don't like the term lower, higher, whatever. But anyway, the same thing, you reach your super self through your subconscious. And I think it's when you get in these brain waves that can reach out to the universe and receive stuff. And I have friends that dowse ghosts and things like that. I'm not particularly interested in it, but people can. So, I have to trust that people do a lot of different things that I don't care to do. But you're developing a system, and you get better every time you do it, is what my belief system. So once again, you can practice with hoses or creeks or candies. I don't see why you can't win the lottery this way, but I just, the premise.
Time to do it. It's like $1.6 billion.
Yeah, the premise is dowsing is used for need, not greed.
Right.
So, letter to Robin. Okay, let's go through the handouts. The first page is just basic dowsing questions. The second page is a description of how I go onto a property, and I walk and I mark. And I prepared that for clients so they can visualize what I'm going to be doing. It's not easy for me to walk across the side of the mountain with sticks and everything. I need a road. And then I have a dowsing sheet, about the third one in, which is my data collection. And it's my contact information and my parameters that I'm using. Once again, we could walk across here and ask to be shown water, and you could get a dozen different things, but they may be too small to be usable. So that's why I framed all this into one question. And I do have a little fudge factor that if it's deeper than I initially want, give me that number anyway. But we're looking for shallow. We don't want to go 1,000 feet. The fine print, I basically tell them to go a little deeper than when they hit water and where to set the pump. So I usually mark 2 sites. I give them estimates of depth, gallons per minute, quality, and casing depth. This doesn't have casing depth on it. This is an older copy. For 2 sites, what I think is a better one, and a second one that gives them options with the driller, because the driller may see something that, I can't do that, I can't get there. So at the bottom, I do kind of mark some environmental temperatures, weather. If rain is dripping off my nose, I probably don't do as good of a job. Air pressure, I just kind of check, because air pressure can put more tension on these fractures and change the relative width, or at least sense of the width. I look at solar flux, which is basically affecting the electromagnetic fields around us. I look at moon phases. Right now we're pretty close to full. We're in alignment with the sun and the earth and the moon, and the different energy fields. People talk about, well, they're too far apart for gravity to interact, but the electromagnetic field of the sun goes past Pluto. So all these, when these planets are lining up, there are things going on that are different. And then I do a little sketch. It's not to scale, but it's something that we can talk about. I tell them that, basically they get to my depth. They haven't gotten the water. I predicted, give me a call. And we do 20 questions. So how many geese are in that gander or whatever? Get a number. 24? Too late. Closer to 30-something.
I can tell you it's more than 20.
More than 20. Okay. And the last several pages are just some references. I've studied the hydrogeology on top of using my intuitive sense. So it's a plus. It makes me better. And if you want to know a good one, the Harry Legrand Master Conceptual Model for the Piedmont Mountains, halfway down the first page, is a good one to look at. Toward the far back, I've got some actually dowsing references that talk about it. And some links. Some of these links are broken, but if you Google the title, they'll show up. And then there's some web pages that you can look. I'll mention our chapters, wncdowsers.org. Also, ASD is just dowsers.org. And there's a lot of information, videos, all that sort of stuff online. But the main thing I repeat is clear question, clear response with a tool or feeling in your body, and then just relax. Don't force it. It will come through when you encourage it. All right. Okay, did folks have any luck with the compasses? Could you feel? So if you didn't, I'll sell you a compass, or you can go to a camping store and buy one. Put it in your pocket, go around. When places where you don't have the sun or the normal clues, just sense, pay attention and feel, and all this you get better. It's a skill and an art. And it doesn't matter what the tool is, in my opinion. It's just whatever you get good with. There was a master dowser who uses these, and I can't get them to work. They're heavy cast iron, and they're just, they're not as easy. That's an L rod. It's actually called a rider rod, but it's 2 L's. And the idea was this surface area is supposed to help you determine magnetic fields easier, edges. And that's kind of a layman's version of the orometer. This one you can also wear, So, but, I had a friend who used this exclusively to find energy fields to do everything we did today. And it's a different tool. So, once again, the pendulum may work well for you. Pick something that's pretty that you're willing to use in public. If not, you can learn to do things like, people know probably reflexology, kinesiology. I can never do that very well. Muscle testing, pushing, you get weak. And I found fingernail dowsing, where you slide down a fingernail. If it slides slick, easy, that's my S. But if it kind of grabs, that's my no. So you can kind of, be asking questions. Of course, I guess you look kind of funny there. But the other thing is you can train yourself blink dowsing so that if the answer is yes, you will blink within a couple seconds. The answer is no, you don't blink. These are all forms of deviceless dowsing or body dowsing. And I do encourage you to learn those, but I think using the tool helps you develop a discipline and other people see something happen. There's a fella in Silva that makes a really nice selection of tools. And I bring them and to say, you don't need these, but they look nice. People, some reason, will want to pay me more when I use these than when I use a coat hanger. And with the coat hanger, you don't even have to cut the coat hanger. You can just, make it do that or that. The British say, why waste a perfectly good coat hanger? I can't find the metal ones anymore. They're tough. So, once again, magnetic fields, get you some cheap magnets. You can feel there's a point. And once you get to it, you can get much more sensitive. And I'm doing the same thing. I get a pushback real strong here. And then, you can build energy and do all sorts of playful things. But the bottom line is you don't need the tools. Learn to use your body. Did everybody get a good set of tools? I want you to take them with you so you have some to take home. If they're not the same length, we can do a little trimming. There's some trimmers down here. If you want to do a better job of pendulums or anything, I can help with that.
Close your eyes, yeah. So I should trim it even if it's that different?
That's probably close enough. He's showing about, 3 millimeters or whatever. You want them balanced so that when you change hands, one's not, a whole lot heavier.
Yeah, that's very, very low.
And he's doing a wonderful example of, he's feeling, the differences of, pretty strong magnets. So we're electromagnetic being. I also have had people douse my aura when I was on the bridge, and the downstream side was like twice as wide. And it felt to me like something was being stripped off me. I don't know if it was electrons or what, but I could feel something pulling. So I just mentioned that so that you can pay attention to that. So, very, very quick introduction. Dowsing has become a spiritual practice for me because you realize that you're connected with the universe. And you can't bullshit the universe, or if you do, you pay the price. These ones glow in the dark. They were designed for night dowsing. Ghosts. These with bright green. Those are glow-in-the-dark sleeves.
So these are copper?
It's probably brass. Once again, in my belief system, you are the measuring device, and this is just a tool. So, once again, somebody doesn't want to pay me as much for using this tool, but it works just as well as that fancy one, in my belief system, in my experience. So, dowsing has become the single most expansive tool I've discovered in the latter half of my life. And I want other people to do it. So I lead it, write about it. There's our website, Appalachian Dowsers meets. It'll be the third Saturday in November. We meet 4 times a year, February, May, September, November. We've got, last time in September, we had a speaker who was with the Edgar Cayce Institute, was a real famous psychic. And then in November, we're going to have a woman who's a psychic detective that finds lost people. Her son, she's Louis Matasha, who was a treasure hunter. He taught Marines how to douse VC tunnels.
I was wondering, do people douse for landmines? That seems like a natural.
They did, but they didn't have 100% success with that. So, I mean, after a while, some of the Marines complained, I think. But yes, yeah, you can douse for anything that you can think of a clear question.
Do you need to speak the question? I noticed you did, but is that necessary?
I think until you get used to it, it's good to write it down, to speak it, to reinforce it. However, you're also approaching a different part of your brain when you verbalize or when you see it written. So affirmations, that sort of thing, are powerful. If I tell my subconscious it's not worthy, you know, that's terrible. I don't want anybody. So I try to tell people, be careful what you imprint on yourself, because you can, you know, put yourself down and restrict your own growth. So if you want to learn more about dowsing, check out our webpage and come. We always have a hour and a half beginner's dowsing class. We did have a long-term member who just passed recently, Richard Crutchfield, who did spiritual dowsing, and he worked with entities and a higher level, which I don't have much experience with and don't really care.
Where do you meet?
We meet at the Unity Center near the Asheville Airport.
Oh, okay.
Unity of the Blue Ridge near Sierra Nevada, just down the road from the, yeah. And other than that, I'm open to any questions you may have, or, you know, there's no limit to what you can learn to do with your dowsing, in my opinion, except limits that you create yourself. So.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.